Good evening, I'm John Carter and welcome to Poland Daily. The Law and Justice Party have won their second consecutive parliamentary election. According to the National Electoral Commission, Jarosław Kaczyński's party was backed by over 8 million Poles, which was 43.8% of those eligible for voting. The Civic Coalition was second with 27.3%, followed by the Left in third. The Polish Coalition and the Confederation also entered Parliament. This outcome leaves the Law and Justice Party with definite majority of seats in the Sejm. The Senate, on the other hand, will be ruled by the opposition with 52 of the 100 possible mandates. The final results of the parliamentary elections in Poland are just about to be announced. We will give you the final results in tomorrow's edition of Poland Daily. Now we're going to take a look at how the various party leaders reacted to the announcement of the preliminary results.
To jest powód do tego, by się zastanowić.
This is the reason why we should think of improving the situation in our country and in particular the situation under our influence. We need to make things better, correct, so we will become better from a societal point of view. We need to work on the things which bring us down, make us weaker and get rid of them. Now is not the moment to discuss this in detail, but I am speaking about the issue, as we have to remember that, because we are a formation which deserves more. We've got a lot, but we deserve more.
Które osłabiają nasze możliwości, zostały wyeliminowane.
To nie była równa walka.
This was not an even fight. There were no rules. We had no feeling that we were in an honest battle, that our adversary obeys honest rules. I wanted to say that we are, and we will continue to repeat that we will work on the integration of the opposition.
Będziemy powtarzać.
Słyszałem, że podobno nie wejdziemy do parlamentu.
We have shown in this campaign that there is a good alternative, that Poland can be a country with social benefits and lawful. Poland can be a country for good workers' relations and is not bickering with our European friends. This is our proposal, pro-European, pro-social, pro-worker. This result is the first step towards the left-wing government, which will take power from Law and Justice in the next election.
Całego rządu, który w kolejnych wyborach odsunie PiS od władzy.
We agreed to work together to fulfill our program and the Paweł Kukiz program. That includes no income tax on retirement benefits and voluntary pension tax. We will not rest. We are seeing the revealing of all those parties, you know, those combinations. Civic Platform, Law and Justice, Polish People's Party, Democratic Left Alliance, and so on. They are changing party affiliations as they feel, with no remorse. This is the same Round Table Party. They were founded by General Kiszczak. His idea was that the Communist Party should be split, so people would have a choice. In the Communist Party there were two fractions, Natalins and the Polavians. And now we have Natalins and the Polavians, plus former Communist Democratic Party and the Polish People's Party, and they want to restore the previous system of connections as in the communist regime, and the Confederation stopped that from happening by sticking our foot in the door.
The Warsaw Military Regional Court has accepted the motion of the prosecutor of the Commission investigating crimes against the Polish nation of the Institute of National Remembrance to issue a European arrest warrant for the former judge Stefan Michnik. Michnik, who was a judge in the military court during the communist era in Poland, is suspected of committing 93 crimes, falling under the category of crimes against humanity. In 1952 and 1953, he, among other things, handed out death sentences and long prison sentences for former anti-communist activists. Fidesz, the party led by Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán, won Sunday's municipal elections. The party, however, lost the battle for the capital, Budapest, to their opposition rivals.
According to data available after the majority of votes have been counted, the election in Budapest was won by György Karácsony, who gained 50.6% of the vote. His opponent from Fidesz, the former mayor of Budapest, István Tarlós, got 44.3%. Tarlós congratulated his rival on winning the mandate of the city's mayor. In turn, as Karácsony said, the result of the opposition, which managed to win in 10 of the 23 largest Hungarian cities, is just the beginning of the road leading to taking power from Fidesz. Viktor Orban's group achieved considerable success in cities with more than 5,000 inhabitants, where they won in most constituencies. In turn, in rural areas, Fidesz and their partner, the Christian Democratic People's Party, gained a crushing advantage over the opposition. Yesterday's local elections is one of many in which Fidesz gained a significant advantage over the opposition over the last 10 years.
Today, Spain's Supreme Court sentenced 9 Catalan separatist leaders to between 9 and 13 years in prison for sedition, for their role in the region's failed bid for independence in 2017. All of the defendants were acquitted of the most severe charge of rebellion.
4 of the separatist leaders were also convicted for misuse of public funds. However, many in Madrid argued that the separatist leader should have been sentenced for rebellion as well. I think the crime of rebellion was totally justified because it was really arising against the right of state and against democracy, and they should have got the maximum that penal code allows. Other Madrid residents were of the opinion that it is necessary to respect the verdict of the Supreme Court. About the sentence, I think it's good that there is not a general perception of impunity. Furthermore, it's difficult to know the exact grade, whether it should be 4, 6, 8 or 15 years. Personally, I can say that rebellion for me was a bit crazy. Apart from that, it is the Supreme Court, and what we need to do now is to abide by the sentence, and that's it. Separatist protesters responded to the verdict by blocking access to trains and metros to Barcelona airport, whilst others temporarily halted traffic on the A2 highway and several regional roads across Catalonia. The current leader of Catalonia, Quim Torra, stated that he considers the court case a show trial.
The Catalan government and I personally reject these verdicts because we consider them unjust and anti-democratic, and because they are part of a political trial and wide-ranging campaign of legal action against Catalonia's right to self-determination and against the independence movement.
The ruling is likely to color a national election on November 10th, Spain's 4th in 4 years, scheduled for November 10th, and influence the direction taken by the separatist movement.
Thank you very much for joining me here this evening at Poland Daily. I'm John Carter. Stay tuned after the break for Poland Daily Weather. It's followed by the business, and it's the culture, history, and then finally it's the travel.
Welcome to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tonight. A warm night across the country with temperatures ranging between 13 degrees on the east to 18 degrees in Szczecin. In central, temperature will hover around 14 degrees. And now over to tomorrow. It will be a very sunny day. The temperature will range from 17 degrees on the northwest to even 25 degrees in Kraków and Wrocław. Let's see the forecast for the following 3 days. On Wednesday, temperature will increase to 17 degrees on the southwest. In most regions we will see plenty of sunlight. On Thursday, pressure will drop. A maximum 21 degrees will be in the southeast and a minimum 15 in the northwest. On Friday, temperature will range from 16 to 20 degrees. We don't expect any rainfalls that day. Thank you for watching and see you soon.
Poland Daily Business Edition. The focus of the media tonight, or these days, is again on the Middle East because of the war between Turkey and Kurds and that are invading Syria's border. Iran is watching closely those events. All those countries are allies of the Russia, who seems to be happy that it's against something stirred in the spot. Our own correspondent, Paweł Rakowski, is now in Beirut, Lebanon. Sir, welcome to the show.
Good evening.
And please explain us how it started, how the local people are seeing this chain of events, because it seems that fall of the Ottoman Empire after the Great War is the beginning of this national tensions in the region.
Yes, especially, I mean, the fall of the Ottoman Turks after the 1918 or maybe more 1920, when the Sykes-Picot Treaty kind of divided all of the post-Ottoman areas, especially the Arab world, under the Syria was created, under the Lebanon, Palestine, Jordan, Iraq was created as a kingdom. Everything was kind of the fake borders, and of course the collapse of the Ottomans here in the Middle East were praised. And a few weeks ago, even Lebanese President Michel Aoun said that they are not looking towards Turkey because of the past, because of the very bloody past. 400 years of oppression, and especially for the Christians. Nevertheless, the Kurds were the ones who didn't gain anything of didn't gain any political benefits from the fall of the Ottoman Empire, because all of the territories which they claim to be their ethnic were divided between four parts, between four states, between Iran, between Iraq, between Syria, and between Turkey. And also there are some parts of Kurdish area in the post-Soviet Armenia. So the Kurds were kind of left alone. Especially in the Turkey, their situation was kind of very difficult, because the Kemal Atatürk authorities claimed that they are not Kurds, they're not separate entity, they are not separate nation, they are just mountain Turks. Therefore, they need to leave their language, live like Turks, and there was a big political and also military pressure. During the Cold War, of course, the Turks were used for all the political gains here in the Middle East. Soviets were supporting one part, the Americans they were supporting the other. Israel was supporting the Kurds in the Iraq and Iran. The Soviets were supporting the Kurds inside the Turkey, who were the NATO and part of the Western Bloc. Allies, at least at that time. So the Kurds were left alone, partitioned by the four states. Their situation is the best situation they have in Iraq, where they're almost autonomous, almost independent state inside the state. In Iran, they are somehow connected, because most of the Iranian Kurds are Shia, so they are somehow connected towards the Ayatollah regime. In Turkey, it was the most serious situation. Several uprisings, several of military guerrilla activities on the borders, on the eastern borders, constant pressure, constant clashes. That's the Kurdish reality in Turkey.
Right now we see that Turkish military activity in the north of Syria. This is being watched very carefully from the other parts of the Middle East. Turkey claims this is anti-terrorist operation aimed at the communist guerrilla that also strike terror in Turkey. Is there any grain of truth in these claims?
It's very interesting that they are using this word communist. Well, of course, Kurds were somehow connected towards the leftist ideology of the freedom fighters against the regime. But first of all, they have a great contribution towards the fighting the ISIS, the Daesh, and other Salafist extremist groups in the recent years. Secondly, the Kurdish people are the most liberal people towards, at least towards their approach to Islam and adapting the Western culture. So, if the Western world would like to have a serious ally in the Middle East, who at least shares most of the Western values, Kurds are the ones. So here is kind of the strange why they are called communists. Of course, they are called by the Ankara terrorists because they are fighting for the freedom fight. I mean, for one, they are terrorists. For other, they are freedom fighters. And the Kurds in Syria were supported by the United States for the last few years, especially during the war with ISIS, gain military might and political meaning, which dangers the stability of the Kurdish situation inside Turkey.
And Turkey is fighting back, sort of, although is developing story, and we will definitely monitor that very closely. Paweł Rakowski is in Beirut, Lebanon. Sir, thank you very much for participating in our show. And that was it for tonight's edition.
Welcome back to Poland Daily Weather. Let's take a look at the forecast for tomorrow. It will be a very sunny day. The temperature will range from 17 degrees in the northwest to even 25 degrees in Kraków and Wrocław. And now let's see tomorrow's forecast for our continent. The rain will dominate on the North Europe. In Scandinavia, temperature will range from 5 degrees in Helsinki to 10 in Stockholm. Sunny weather and 22 degrees in Rome, but Ankara will enjoy the highest temperature on the continent, 28 degrees. Thank you for watching and goodbye.
Good day, everyone. My name is Maria Kądzielska, and this is Poland Daily Culture. The Pilecki Institute is one of the most important research organizations in Poland. It is named after one of the bravest Poles in history, Witold Pilecki. Dr. Wojciech Kozłowski, the director of the institute, is our guest today. Thank you for being with us.
Happy to be with you here.
But let's start with some shots of their actions. Sir, you are director of the Institute, but I think it is worth mentioning who Witold Pilecki was before we go and discuss your projects.
Well, you're absolutely right saying that he is one of the bravest Poles in our history. He's basically famous for volunteering to infiltrate the Auschwitz camp, for building there the underground organization, resistance, plotting, armed rising in the camp and then fleeing it. In the meantime, sending a good number of materials and intelligence to the Allies about what was going on in the camp. And then afterwards, once he managed to escape the camp, he fought in the Warsaw Uprising. Then, right from when he then was arrested, and he was held in the POW camp by the Germans. He was then freed by the Allies, and he joined the Anders Army, so the Second Corps in the West. And he had a chance to stay outside Poland and never come back to the communist regime. But he also always wanted to fight for free Poland, so he decided to return. And once he returned, he again, built an underground organization to resist the communists. They arrested him, they put him on show trial, they tortured him, and after that, they executed him. So he's in fact a victim of two totalitarian regimes that fell upon Poland in 1939. And in this sense, he is in fact an embodiment of the broader Polish experience of confronting these two totalitarian regimes. He is the victim to two of them, and at the same time, he is a brave resistant. Well, he is the greatest fighter against both oppressing regimes. And therefore, I believe that he is a great model and symbol for us, and we're very proud to bear his name in our institute.
It seems like he did things which are like superheroes. It seems impossible to escape Auschwitz, and he did it. It was extremely difficult to survive during and to fight in Warsaw Uprising, and he did it. And he went with honors. His biography is amazing. But the question is, what is the goal of the institute which bears his name?
Well, our goal is, first of all, to reinvigorate the studies of the Second World War by bringing to the new light the materials, the archival materials that are still, to be recovered, to be recognized and known. They're dispersed in various archives. We're building a great digital archive that is supposed to help scholars to rework the Second World War, especially here in Central Europe and in the Polish lands in particular. Our aim as well is to communicate with the international world. We have so many misconceptions, we have so many stereotypes about the Polish fate during the Second World War, which need to be simply resisted in terms of good scholarship, in terms of providing valid and solid source material, and that's what we're supposed to do. We have to talk with the world, and we're trying to do it as well in English. So we believe that this is the way that the Polish history can be recovered, can be told, and can be disseminated, which is also part of our mission.
And just this month, you opened a branch in Berlin. How do you plan to develop international relations there, from this?
We opened a branch in Berlin because, as I just mentioned, our goal is to talk to the international academia, to the international audience. And of course we can do it from Poland, of course we can do it from Warsaw, which is a great place and is becoming more and more an international city. But it's always more, powerful, more energetic if we move beyond the Polish borders. When we land in Berlin, this is also an great international city, and I believe, from what I learned about German audience, the Polish history, the history of the Second World War in Poland, not in the West, not even in Russia, but in Poland, is very poorly known among many Germans. And what I have recently also learned about the imminent success of our exhibition that we opened there.
So if any one of you doesn't know who Witold Pilecki was, go online and check it, or go to Berlin and visit the exhibition about the volunteer Witold Pilecki. And thank you for watching Poland Daily Culture.
'1830 was a year of revolution in Europe. Belgium, France, Switzerland, and in Greece, the struggle to independence from the Ottoman Empire was finally successful. And in this dramatic year, Poland was no exception. In this programme we look at the November 1830 revolution, which gave the Poles 9 months of freedom, of independence, the only 9 months they had between the Third Partition of Poland in 1795 and the re-emergence of the Polish state after the First World War in 1918. Join us on Poland Daily History for this dramatic story.
And the Russian army came closer, came up to Warsaw, and at the outskirts of Warsaw, on the right bank, the Polish army, now regrouped, had a plan to stop the Russians at Grochów or Olszynka Grochowska. Olszynka Grochowska, it means that there is a wood composed of alders.
Alders, yes, alders.
So that's why we have two names in Polish historiography, Grochów or Olszynka Grochowska, but this is the same. And that was a major battle, undecisive, but a great victory, once again, a great victory for the Polish side, because the Russians refused to attack, to storm Poland at Warsaw at that period. So in a sense, it was a victory.
Yes, only because that area has now become part of part of Warsaw, as the city has grown since that time.
There are monuments over there. There are streets carry names of heroes of that battle and so on. So it's very dear to our.
And then I think it's probably worth it because as we said earlier, 1830 itself had been a time of a revolution in Europe. How was this battle and this what was going on in Poland in 1830, 1831 seen across the rest of Europe?
It depends on the country. I mean, the French public opinion was very favorable. The British as well, because the time was. I mean, we have this romantic wave all across Europe. So we were, in a sense, regarded as fighters for freedom. I think values that are very dear.
I think Lafayette in Paris was one who got very excited about it, because he gets excited by revolutions, got excited by the American Revolution, the French Revolution. I mean, probably the timescale is too small. But did it attract sort of foreign volunteers? Did people come flocking to Poland to take part?
Not in a large number. I mean, there were some who fought voluntarily in the Polish army, but it's not a number that would change the effect.
And I think yes, and it's quite interesting, because I think obviously the British probably had a slightly different, because they were more worried about the sort of a rise again of sort of revolutionary thinking in France. And I think Lord Palmerston, who was at that time a major figure, was sort of very sceptical about really aiding Poland. Thought it would actually be better to try and stay on the right side of Russia, because we might, looking at from the British perspective, might actually need Russia in the future if France sort of tried to rise again. And I think also the Prussians and the Austrians were sort of a bit ambivalent, and it didn't really do much to help, but didn't necessarily hinder either.
I mean, nobody was really. I mean, no politician, no politician in Europe was interested in really aiding the rising. I mean, the fight was first of all the fight was uncertain. I mean the outcome was completely uncertain. Secondly, nobody wanted to engage in a war against Russia. Thirdly, the fact that the Poles were fighting, I mean, they were fighting for themselves. So again, I mean, it would be very, very hard to explain to the public opinion, which is at that time, I mean, which already is there at that time, that we send our boys, you know, to fight somewhere, you know,
in
where
Poland.
white bears walk on the streets.
Well, exactly. We don't want to get involved in a fight between Russia and Poland because that's a bit complicated. It's a long way off. We don't really understand it. We've just had a big war.
Because it's one thing, you know, to support, to shout in the streets that Vive la Pologne and so on, but the other, it's completely different. It's a completely different thing, you know, when you have to send your sons or husbands, you know, for such a undertaking.
Okay. So we'll be just at this stage because we haven't actually quite got to the end of the revolution, the battle, but in political terms, what were the Poles trying to achieve? Was it in fact trying to recreate
Poland,
an independent Poland,
completely
Poland free of Russian intervention
within the borders from before 1772, so from before the first partition.
So this establishing the sort of pre-first partition.
And the thing was simple. I mean, Russia occupied most of the Polish territory, so Russia was the main enemy.
So this would be to recreate Poland, to be free of Russia.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Poland Daily Travel. It's fantastic. In these series of episodes, we're going to be taking a special walk in Warsaw. We're going to be looking at the sumptuous and scintillating gardens at the palace by the Vistula. That's right, we'll be taking a walk between the palace and the river. That's the royal palace, of course. Not only a beautiful building, but beautiful gardens as well. And Old Man Vistula rolling by. We're going to take a walk in the remade gardens and talk some old rubbish and see where the old river crossing was. You will be just as amazed as I was, along with Stan. Later, we'll walk along the Vistula, along what is called the Vistula Boulevards, which sports, according to many publications, the best beaches of any big city in all of Europe. We'll let you be the judge of that. So come along for a special walk between the palace and the river. That's Poland Daily Travel. We're in Warsaw. What better place to be? Let's go for a stroll.
I like your Rajovica one. I mean, the
Really?
shots
Was
were
it good?
very good.
Yeah. Okay, go ahead. So what are we looking at? We're here in the gardens of the palace here, right?
The upper gardens.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we're this is the Baroque facade of the castle, which was it's actually a whole wing built in the early 18th century by the Wettin kings, which were Saxon princes from Germany.
From Saxony.
Saxony, Germany, but
Yeah.
Germany wasn't united back then. There were just many dukedoms and stuff. And Poland had a system in which we elected...
Dumb dukes?
Dumb dukes, yes. That's...
Dukedoms?
Yeah. Oh, you Americans.
I know, we understand nothing. Come on.
Anyways, Poland had a system back then where we elected our kings, sort of a noble republic. And so the nobility decided after the death of Jan Sobieski, the great king, to elect August as the Elector of Saxony as King of Poland. and they established
Augustus
themselves.
Poniatowski, you mean?
No, Augustus II called the Strong, which was a Veton. That's the
Oh,
early
this is the way back.
Oh,
yeah.
that's a few decades earlier than Stanislav
early
Augustus.
18th century.
Yeah,
Okay.
early 18th
Okay.
century. So as you can see, it's
Right,
typical
just so the
Baroque.
folks can be clear on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a typical Baroque style facade. It was
It's
built by
amazing
them.
palace,
You could
yeah.
actually see the name of the second Veton king, Augustus III. If the camera shows it, the golden letters, right?
Yeah.
You have their coat of arms with
Yeah,
the
they
coat
get
of
it.
arms of the
Yeah.
family is in the middle of those crests, and in the background you can see the crest of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. You have the white eagle on both sides, and then you have the cavalier, which is called Pogoń Litewska, and that's the symbol of Lithuania.
Wow.
And so that's the
Yeah.
way those things are.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
I mean, how old is the castle exactly?
the castle, the first, let's say, structures built in this place date from, let's say, the 13th century, let's say. And back then it was a wooden borough, more or less. And then only, I think, in 1350 or 60, there was one brick tower that was built. And then over the next 100 years, another tower was built, another building was built, and they were all connected by a wall, which was then connected to the city walls of the old town. So the castle was, the development of the castle was parallel to the let's say, to the development of Warsaw. So the more this castle got, let's say, developed and was important from a political point of view, the more Warsaw grew. So the history of Warsaw and the history of this castle are parallel to up to a certain moment in history.
Wow, and you work at the castle, so you know all this stuff.
I mean, I'm
You're
not
like you're kind of an expert on the castle.
That's. I mean, I work in the
A
promotion.
layman, a layman expert.
I just like history, and
Yeah.
these are things that I should know actually about the royal castle.
It's very interesting. Yeah, come on, let's keep going. And the garden. When was the garden built?
Well, the garden, they date back, as I told, the first one were already established at the end of the 15th century, but we don't know exactly where they were. Probably somewhere around here, but the terrain changed a lot. Because as I told you, back there, much closer to us, the river used to flow. Here, there were many various constructions. First of all, we're on an escarpment, so there was always a
So an escarpment is a kind of a hill cliff type thing.
it was always a cliff, but it was differently shaped during the centuries, because at some point, for example, in the 17th century, a huge curtain bastion was built to defend the riverbank from a possible Turkish attack, because in the early 17th century, Poland lost a major battle with the Turks at Cezora in Moldova, today's Moldova, and the king feared that the Turkish army might reach Warsaw. So they built here where the arcades are, as we just mentioned, those arcades. There used to be a huge curtain wall with gigantic bastions on both sides. So of course with cannons and stuff, because actually almost the front of the castle should be here, because the front is always directed to the river, since the river was the biggest, let's say, trade route for many centuries. I mean, Poland got rich because of this river.
The river?
The brine, that was the ore that was
it deeper
shipped.
then? Was it deeper?
I
river
have no
back then?
idea if it was deeper.
Yeah.
Probably at some point it might have been wider.
But the boats were had much
Well,
shallower drift. Yeah.
I guess some
Even
places
flat
were
boats,
shallower.
I
Yes.
suppose,
Yes.
No, I'm talking about the actual.
Rafts. A lot of rafts were used.
They use
to-
rafts which are flat, so they can easily go down.
Yeah, rafts were used.
Did they pull them
especially
with horses on the side, or?
I don't think so. From the old pictures that I could see, the old paintings.
Using poles?
They have poles, yes.
Yeah, they're
mostly.
using poles.
But poles were probably not to to push them.
The poles were using poles.
The poles were using poles just to probably to push them away from sand. But anyways, like all the most precious cereals that Poland sold then in Gdańsk, which is north of Warsaw. I mean, on the Baltic Sea.
Yeah, because we go right to Gdansk from
yeah,
here.
Yeah. And so most of the merchandise were shipped here. And Warsaw was, became the capital at the very end of the 16th century because Poland expanded with Lithuania to the east. And so Krakow was too much in the south. And so Warsaw, since Warsaw was on the river, the most important river, was in the center of this great Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, they decided to move the capital here, and that's where Warsaw was booming, and that's why the castle got bigger and bigger, and this wing was added at the early 18th century. It's of course rebuilt exactly as it used to be, using some of the original elements that we can see, because of course the Germans, our lovely neighbors, decided to plunder the castle and to blow it up.
Good Lord.
Yeah, first they bombed it in 39.
Yeah.
Killing stuff of the castle.
Gadzooks, I would say. That's not a nice thing to do.
It's not a nice thing. And actually they were shelling the castle on purpose with artillery. And then they bombed it. And so this almost empty shell, some of the state representative, I mean, the state rooms were saved, but then they were plundered. And by 1944, when the uprising broke out, in September, Germans decided to blow it up.
Wow, those Germans always trying to take over the world.
Yeah, well.
Gotta watch them. Yeah.
Now they're hiding at the dark side of the moon, and we hope they won't never appear.
Is that with Hitler?
Yeah,
okay.
With cyborg.
We had to say Hitler.
Cyborg.
We had to say Hitler at least once in an episode where we talk about the war. Oh, look, there's one of those crazy robots. Oh, that's a whole nother story.
Yeah, exactly.
Amazing.
Oh,
Stay with us.
This little thing.
Stay with us. Stay with me. Stay with Stan. We are here at the castle. We're walking around and enjoying the environment of the old town and the river today. It's really, really nice view from up here, folks, I can tell you. And boy, it's fun just walking around in here.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I've never been here before. So thanks for taking me in. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
Okay, we'll be back.